Coming into Saturday, teams in the SEC were 0-286 when trailing by 27 points or more at halftime since 2004. And after Saturday's 31-30 loss to number 3 Texas A&M, South Carolina has become the first team to now achieve that feat. So teams are now 1-286 since 2004 when leading by 27 points or more. That's exactly what happened today, as the Gamecocks, who were up 30-3 going into halftime, never scored another point the rest of the way, as the Aggies, who have been unbeaten this entire season, have played really good football, picked it up in the second half, and came all the way back with a really just phenomenal third quarter to start out, scoring 21 points right out of the gate in the third quarter, and that immediately put the pressure on the Gamecocks, and ultimately it was too much for them to come back from, and they had a chance to win this game at the end. That's the craziest part about all of this, is that Texas A&M was basically on the doorstep of putting this game away for good near the goal line, and instead of running the ball, they threw a backwards pass, and it was a fumble. South Carolina recovered, and then they had a chance to go down and kick a field goal to win this game, but never got really that close to doing so, as just mistakes kind of plagued this team throughout the entire second half. Now, we could start with the good of this game, but ultimately, when you look back at how this game turned out, you have to talk about the negatives, and just, it's been that kind of season for South Carolina. I mean, despite having a really strong first half showing, the story of the season for the Gamecocks will ultimately be the fact that they cannot finish games in the fourth quarter in the year of 2025. Go back to Missouri, all the way back in September, out in Como. That game where the Gamecocks had a 2-point lead in the fourth quarter, couldn't finish out, lost that game. You go back to the Alabama game a few weeks ago, where South Carolina looked very much on the cusp of upsetting a really good Alabama team that has championship aspirations this year. And South Carolina had a fourth quarter lead after a Lenore Sellers touchdown with 10 minutes to go, ended up losing that game. Same deal here, except this is probably, it is the worst loss of not just this season, but I think we can unequivocally say that this is the worst loss of the Shane Beamer era at South Carolina. Heck, I know there's a lot of tough moments throughout Gamecock lore, but I think you could probably put this game right up there as one of the worst, if not the worst, for a lot of Gamecock fans out there. Because coming into the day, not many expected to win this game. South Carolina did, Shane Beamer did, the players did, and it looked like they were really on their way to doing so. I mean, sitting in the press box at halftime, Carolina is up 30-3. And we're all just sitting there, all the media members from South Carolina just sitting there like, what is going on? Like, what is this game like? And then once the second half got going, you kind of knew like things were heading pretty south. Like behind me there, behind Kyle Field here, there's the Texas A&M baseball stadium, Bluebell Park. I was here in College Station in April when South Carolina baseball had a 12-2 lead. I think it was like the fifth inning of the series finale. They were already trying to avoid a sweep, and it looks like they're going to roll to an easy 10-run victory, maybe more. The offense was really good that day, and then they lose 15-12 on a walk-off grand slam. So it felt very much like that for me, now being back here in College Station for the football edition of this matchup, and it's a really frustrating game for the team, the fans that are just wondering what the heck just happened. I mean, what happened to the team that played so well in the first half, put up over 300 yards of offense, basically ended up equaling out to an entire game for a Mike Shula-led offensive performance this season. Mike Furry called a really good game in this first half, but that offense pretty much disappeared once the second half got going. South Carolina only had 76 yards after halftime and no points to show for it. And meanwhile, on the other end, A&M, who just has players everywhere. It's not just Marcel Reed. You got Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. So many really good players in this offense that when you give them an inch, when you leave the door cracked, this team can go out here and do what they did today. And I mean, A&M showed why they're undefeated at this point in the season and look very much for real in terms of the college football playoff picture and title contention as the season wears on. Now, for South Carolina, this loss means that they will not be going to a bowl game. That's now the second time in the last 3 years that a Beamer-led team will not be going to the postseason. And much more than that, I think an underrated stat in all this is through the first 4 years of Beamer's tenure, South Carolina has either made a bowl game or had a chance to go to a bowl game heading into the final week of the season. But this year's different because now they're 3-7 on the year, 2 games left to play, and now they know they're not going to a bowl game. So it's a interesting scenario here where the Gamecocks have 2 games left and know they're not going to a bowl game. So we'll see how these next 2 games shake out with Coastal Carolina and then Clemson to end the season. So once again, South Carolina suffers a 31-30 loss to number 3 Texas A&M here at Kyle Field on Saturday. South Carolina will be back in action next Saturday, November 22nd, when it takes on Coastal Carolina at 4:15 on SEC Network from Williams-Brice Stadium. Thanks for following along. For GamecockCentral.com, I'm Jack Veltri.